Buba the Abandoned Child. In a small village nestled along the banks of a winding river, there lived a woman named No Aisha. She was known far and wide for her kindness and gentle nature. Every morning, as the sun rose over the hills, No Aisha could be seen tending to her small garden, humming songs that her mother had taught her. But beneath her warm smile and kind eyes lay a heart burdened with sorrow. No Aisha had once been married to a man named Bolaman. He was a tall, handsome man with a charm that could win over anyone. When they first met, Bolaman had swept No Aisha off her feet, promising her life full of love and happiness. But life, as it often does, had other plans. Not long after they were married, No Aisha discovered she was with child. The news should have brought joy, but instead it brought fear. Bolaman was a restless man, always dreaming of a life beyond the village, a life filled with riches and adventure. When he heard the news of the baby, instead of the happiness No Aisha had hoped for, he grew distant. He began spending more time away from home, and when he was there, he was quiet, lost in his thoughts. One dark night, as the stars twinkled in the sky, Bolaman made a decision that would change their lives forever. He packed his belongings and left the village without a word. No Aisha awoke the next morning to find his side of the bed cold and empty. She searched for him everywhere, but Bolaman was gone, leaving behind nothing but memories and a heartbroken wife. Months passed, and No Aisha's belly grew round with the life inside her. The villagers, though sympathetic, whispered behind her back. Bolaman has abandoned her, they said. How will she raise the child on her own? But No Aisha, though hurt, was determined to be strong for the sake of her unborn child. In the midst of her sorrow, a small blessing came into her life. On a warm evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, No Aisha gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. She named him Buba, which means a blessing in her native tongue, for he was the light in her darkest hours. From the moment Buba entered the world, No Aisha showered him with all the love she had. She raised him to be kind and respectful, teaching him the values that had been passed down to her by her own parents. Buba grew up knowing only the love of his mother, for Bolaman was but a ghost in their lives, a name mentioned in whispers and memories. As the years went by, Buba blossomed into a bright and hard-working young man. He was clever and quick-witted, always eager to learn new things. Though they had little, Buba was content, for he had the love of his mother, and that was more precious to him than all the riches in the world. But deep down, Buba always wondered about the father he had never known. Why did he leave us? He would sometimes ask No Aisha, but she would only smile sadly and say, Your father had his reasons, my son. But we have each other, and that is enough. Buba accepted his mother's words, but the questions lingered in his heart. One day, when Buba was a young man, a traveling merchant came to the village. The merchant was old and wise, with stories from far-off lands and treasures that sparkled like the stars. Buba, with his curious mind, was drawn to the merchant and spent hours listening to his tales. The merchant, seeing the spark in Buba's eyes, took a liking to him. You have potential, young man, he said. Why don't you come with me and see the world? There's much to learn beyond the borders of this village. No Aisha, though hesitant to let her son go, knew that Buba's heart yearned for more. She gave him her blessing, and with a tearful farewell, Buba set off on a journey that would change his life. 4 years, Buba traveled with the merchant, learning the ways of trade and commerce. He was a quick learner, and soon, he began to amass wealth of his own. Buba's reputation grew, and he became known as a fair and just trader, respected by all who knew him. But no matter how much success he found, he never forgot his mother or the village where he had been raised. One day, after many years away, Buba returned to his village. He had grown into a man of great wealth and influence, but his heart remained humble. The villagers, who once whispered about his father, now spoke in awe of Buba's achievements. But Buba cared little for their praise, he only wanted to see his mother. When No Aisha saw her son, now a man, she wept tears of joy. I always knew you would make something of yourself, my son, she said, embracing him tightly. Buba smiled, his heart full of love for the woman who had sacrificed so much for him. It was all because of you, Mama, he replied. For a time, life was peaceful. Buba and No Aisha lived together in a comfortable home, and Buba's wealth brought prosperity to the village. But as with all stories, the past has a way of resurfacing. One day, a man appeared at Buba's door. He was older now, with the lines of hardship etched on his face, but Buba recognized him immediately. It was Bolaman, his long-lost father. Bolaman had fallen on hard times. After leaving the village all those years ago, he had chased dreams that never came to fruition. Now, with nothing to his name and nowhere else to go, he had returned, hoping for a second chance. Buba's heart was torn. The father he had longed to know stood before him, but so too did the pain of abandonment. No Aisha, seeing the struggle in her son's eyes, spoke softly. Buba, I know this is difficult, but your father is still your father. He may have made mistakes, but everyone deserves a chance at redemption. With his mother's words in mind, Buba made a decision. He invited Bolaman into their home, not as a father returning to his family, but as a man seeking forgiveness. For months, Bolaman lived with them, working hard to prove himself to the son he had left behind. Buba watched as his father toiled, his once proud shoulders now bent with the weight of regret. Slowly, the walls between them began to crumble, and Buba saw in Bolaman not just a man who had left, but a man who had been lost and was now trying to find his way back. In time, forgiveness blossomed. Buba and Bolaman began to rebuild their relationship, not as father and son, but as two men who had both learned hard lessons in life. The past could not be erased, but it could be forgiven. As the years passed, Buba continued to prosper, and his village grew into a thriving community. No Aisha, now elderly, watched with pride as her son became a man of great honor, loved and respected by all. And so, the story of Buba is one of love, loss, and redemption. It is a story of a boy who grew up without a father, but who found in himself the strength to forgive. It is a story of a mother's unwavering love and a father's journey to redemption. And it is a reminder that, no matter where life takes us, it is never too late to find our way back home.